All right, everyone, welcome back to episode 39 of the Tough Lift podcast. I'm joined with two familiar faces if you've been with me on this journey of coaching. These guys have both been on podcasts with me over and over again. I love to, I don't know if they like it. That's up to them to decide. Share platforms and lift and train together or have our athletes train together when we're in training halls and competitions. But Danny Camargo and Sean Rigsby are both joining for today's episodes. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do kind of like a coach's roundtable. I got this idea from watching an athlete in the gym. She has access to a really cool thing where she's able to watch a bunch of NFL higher level people talk amongst themselves that are coaches, general managers, stuff like that. So I figured why not do that for weightlifting and pretend we're just as cool as the NFL. So in this episode, basically I wanted to get coaches together and kind of just chat on different topics. I think you as the athlete and or another coach in the space, whether you're experienced or new, can get a lot out of just listening to other coaches without athletes in the gym, without being in the middle of a training hall. Because Danny, Sean, we get hit up in like these training halls at national meets with a million questions, and you're trying to watch your athlete. You're trying to be polite, give great answers, quality answers, or just flat out fucking ignore the person. Like, shit happens. Sorry, I'm busy watching my athlete who's about to lift. This might be a cleaner environment to have those kind of conversations and maybe put out some good content. That's what the Tough Lift podcast is all about. It's not just for weightlifting, it's for sports in general, giving out good quality content for athletes and coaches around. So just a quick once over if you guys have been living under a rock and you don't know who these people are. I myself am Matt Adamcheck. I run it and own 4-Star Strength in the Metro Detroit area, an Olympic weightlifting gym. We'll go on my screen left to right. So, Danny, go ahead, a quick intro.
Hello, Danny Camargo out of Florida. And right now it is blizzard, freezing cold, 70 degrees.
It's 17 degrees here, Danny. So
compared to where you're at.
How's that hoodie?
Yeah, I'm wearing this hoodie and it's like 70 degrees outside. Owner of Oly Concepts and a USA Level 4 Senior International Coach.
And then next, Sean.
Sean Rigsby. I own and operate Heavy Metal Barbell, which is inside Charlotte Strength. It's a building I'm in that's behind me. We're here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then I work for USA Weightlifting as the junior national team coordinator, which means I get to work with our elite junior athletes and coaches when we go into the field and win some medals.
Awesome. So, guys, like I said, I wanted to chat with you guys today, and the conversation that actually kind of spurred all this to actually initiate this plan was I was talking with Coach Tracy, who you guys have both met, and she had recognized that I started using snatch high pulls again. All right, I went through like a breakup with the snatch high pull, we'll call it. I did not use that move with my athletes for probably like a year, maybe a year and a half. I had just kind of gotten away from it. I felt like it was causing more issues than actually helping. Just here and there, I was unhappy with the movement. I didn't want to use it anymore. I felt like it was being misused. So I was like, all right, well, then I started reintroducing it. And she was like, whoa, now you're doing this thing again. I thought you hated this thing. I thought you were over it. And I was like, no. Everything has its use, right? Sometimes you need to use it, sometimes you don't. And we had a discussion on that. But I was like, then this would be a really good topic because these are the conversations coaches don't really have the time to have with athletes in the gym. Why are we doing this now? Why are we not, etc.? Or why did we do this? Why don't we do it anymore type conversations? And I was like, this would be a good conversation to maybe have with some other coaches that have been around the weightlifting scene for a while. And or the cool thing is all three of us have actually been athletes. And I would happily say you guys were actual athletes. I was just a fucking psychopath that wanted to lift heavy shit. You guys were actually like trying to win. So like with that said, I wanted to kind of discuss movements we don't use that we're like absolutely against. And if we want to talk on that, like why we don't like this movement, or maybe movements that like we've used and we left and then we came back to. So like for me, my snatch high pull, the reason was because I didn't like how a lot of athletes in the gym, even with me coaching and being active of saying like, hey, it's not drive and pull as high as we can. The pull is a component to teach your body to pull under and to extend with the legs, drive with the legs, and start the pull under process and feel that active pull under. I just kept getting athletes at the end of training, whether like I was too busy watching the other 14 or 10 athletes in the gym, I would turn around and I'd see them like they're at the end of training, they're tired, they're not really paying attention anymore. So they're just like driving, pulling high, driving, pulling high. And then I'd see that bleed into their lifts. And I never want to use the term over pull, right? We all know it's really hard for athletes to over pull. And they'd just be like cranking here, and then their timing would be all messed up. And I'm like, nope, I'm done. I'm done with this thing. I'm just going to have athletes pull. I'd rather do that. We'll pull, and then in our snatch at thigh or snatch below the knee, I'll discuss like, okay, you need to pull under. And that's where we'll get our high pull component of pulling under the bar. So I left it. Then I started reintegrating it, but I only reintegrated it with a few athletes that I knew would have the mental ambiguity, maybe is the word I want to use, to like, Sean can correct me on that or not, the fucking wordsmith in the room.
No, that's good.
Whether they were going to stay like tuned in to actually utilize it the right way, because I do feel like it is a highly misused movement by a lot of coaches and or athletes. They don't do it right for its purpose. So that was like one for me. Input, thoughts, your guys' movements.
Yeah, but you know, you're an example in the snatch high pull. Even though I'm going to agree with you and say how you do the high pull matters more than just doing the high pull. Yet it is one of the most basic accessories that we all are taught coaching 101 is a snatch high pull. I mean, I even think my snatch high pulls are part of my progressions when I'm teaching a beginner from scratch. I am going to agree with pretty much everything you said. And I don't know that there's anything that I don't use. It's going to take me a minute to think of, is there an exercise that I absolutely refuse? I may prefer some over the others, but I'm going to tell you it all works. The listeners out there, everything works. It really is a matter of, does it work for the person you are applying it for, really? So I don't agree with the coaches out there that fall in love with one exercise and give it to every single one of their athletes because they love it that much. I've been a victim of that. My biggest hurdle when I began coaching was I found myself coaching myself in other people. And so and now I've got all these different body types in my gym, and I'm thinking what worked for me has to work for them, and then why doesn't it? And so screwing it up has actually helped me out years ago. But I think the one thing that I can contribute to your example is the difference between the snatch balance and the drop snatch. Learning how to coach.
Let's define both of them before we go into that.
Let's do that.
Different definitions thanks to the internet.
Okay, yeah, thanks to the internet. There's different hangs now, I think, because the internet. Back in my day, there was only one. It was below the knee. That was it. But okay, so snatch balance, right? We know it's an exercise to work on catching the bottom of the snatch, getting underneath the end of a snatch. So both are behind the neck, both require speed, but snatch balance allows a dip and drive first. I used to do that for everybody, and I would then see people misuse that too, much like your high pull example. And the bar's going everywhere. And now this dip drive snatch balance is becoming a power jerk behind the neck, snatch grip, that, you know what I mean? And I stopped using it. And I go, this is not giving me the outcome I want. Now let's introduce the drop snatch, which is everything I said except there's no dip and drive for the definition. It's not fall as fast as you can. It's push yourself down as fast as you can. And then, Matt, I absolutely fell in love with drop snatches, and I went through a phase of my career where I refused the snatch balance and would only write drop snatch for the reason I told you. I think they're quicker. I think they're more advanced. I think they give the athlete the feeling of, shit, I barely caught it at the last minute, which is more realistic. I think it builds confidence. And for the people out there who find it extremely hard, clearly you control that with load. So don't max out in the drop snatch. It's really not about that. But now, after years of just always riding the drop snatch, I found myself gravitating towards returning to the snatch balance for beginners, only applying drop snatch for advanced people. And basically, I'll end by saying I use them both. Now, I use them both, where I was trading them on and off for a little bit. That's it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's so frustrating watching the snatch balance, aka snatch the behind the neck snatch grip jerk with an overhead squat.
Yeah.
There's no training. The only training value I tell my athletes out of that is like you're getting used to having the weight over your head.
Yeah.
Which has its own value, sure.
Sure.
But it's not the intent of the coaching program. So yeah, that's a great example. Sean, anything out of you?
Yeah, this podcast.
I know we had chatted the other day in the car.
Yeah, this podcast is just going to be a whole lot of agreeing, I guess. I'm going to echo what Danny said, is that there are no bad exercises, there are only bad applications. You know, like what Danny observed is that the exercise wasn't a problem, how they were using it was the problem, and then he threw it away because it's like, you know, they're not getting the training effect that he desired. And instead, we just need to convey and define rules and create a situation where the training effect occurs with whatever exercise that is. So echoing again for younger coaches, I think we're all, especially if you were an athlete and you were competing and you did the training process, and I think every good coach should spend time as an athlete in their sport, even if it's not at a high level, it doesn't have to be. But we end up having our personal experiences, our personal biases, filter our lens, like create our perspective on what does or doesn't work. So for me, I can say, for an example, I was terrible at behind the neck jerks. I was really good at jerks and jerks from the rack, jerks from the block, everything, you know. I think I jerked 215, you know, from the block very, very easily. I couldn't behind the neck jerk over 180, you know. So if I already jerk a lot and I never miss jerks, and this other thing kind of screws it up.
Do I have Sean Rigsby beat in something? Do I have you beat in something?
In fairness, it was 180 for a set of 5.
The podcast is done.
So, just to be clear.
Better than you.
Did you do 180 for 5?
I could have done that. I could have done that behind the neck. If the fucking sport was just behind the neck jerk, I would have fucking won the Olympics. Fuck everyone. I don't know why I was so dumb good at that. But I did 205 behind the neck, dude.
That's really good.
I have no clue why I was. That is some stupid ass paratrooper mentality, is what that shit was. Well, I couldn't jerk that from the front.
What I found is that I was just doing the reps stupid, and that's why it was set to 5. Like I never went above that weight. I was like, okay, it's cool that I can do this. This doesn't look or feel anything like my jerk. So I was like, I'm done with this exercise. And guess what? In my coaching practices, that exercise never comes out. Until one day I realized, like, oh man, people are having a really hard time just placing or knowing where the bar should be and feel. And that doesn't mean that behind the neck jerk is useless if it's going to teach them that lesson. And as long as I frame it in a way that's like, hey, this position, you know, timing it behind your head, it's going to be different from the front, but I want you to get used to like everything existing back behind your head. So I've started adding those in. I really like using those if I'm going to do a behind the neck jerk plus a jerk from the front, so I don't deviate too much from the normal movement. And then the high pull, like when I was, you know, learning how to lift, I think there was a wave of like, not quite when I was learning, but earlier in that time, I remember Chinese weightlifting was really big. So the panda pull, which is just like a high pull with foot movement or whatever you want to call it, was a big deal. So same exact thing. When I heard your discussion, Matt, the other day, I was like, I haven't programmed panda pulls for anybody, I think ever, as long as I've been a coach. Because for me, again, that personal bias, all it did was make me smash my hips in the bar because I didn't know what I was doing or how to do it or where I was directing. And then what I realized is I had an issue with an athlete where I was like, oh, like your arms are super rigid. They're not moving. They're not going up your body and you can't get the timing down fast enough. A damn panda pull will fix this. And I really don't want to program it. But I did. And guess what? It worked. It absolutely worked. So, again, it's just remembering that. Yeah, exactly. You got to put that stuff aside just because it didn't work for you. Or in Danny's case, like if it worked for one athlete, it might not work for the other. Or if it didn't work for one athlete, it can work for another one. Yeah. You just got to find the right tool in the toolbox until you get the result that you're after.
Yeah. And if I could jump in, there's two things that I'm hearing Sean say here. One, and this is going to be really important for the newer coaches that are listening to this or just trying to develop. There's a difference between having the knowledge of the sport and the technical knowledge and having the wisdom of the sport. And when I mentor coaches, that's really, I try to make that clear to them. Please get the knowledge. We all need the knowledge. Go get it. But wisdom is the application of it. The second thing that I'm hearing too is with the whole behind the neck. And what did you say, man? You did 205?
I did 205 behind the neck. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It was stupid.
Listen, we're friends and I love you when I say this, but that goes to show everybody that these accessories and these drills doesn't always apply to the stage.
Yep. Well, I mean, look at CrossFit. How many people can snatch balance, ridiculous number, and then they can't snatch it, right?
Yeah. I listen. I want to make sure I'm clear here. You have to train all the important strength lifts, right? We got a squat, pull, press. What types of squat, pull, press? It's between you and coach. How much of it? Again, that's up to the coach and to the individual. But are they translating to the snatch and clean and jerk on stage? Sometimes I'll take it deeper and say, are they translating in training? That's great. You want them to translate into the snatch and clean and jerk in training. But I'm specifically saying the unique environment of competition. Can all this work we do translate to the stimulus, all the stimuli on stage with the judge, with the crowd, with the live stream, with the clock, in a singlet, maybe a weight cut. We have weight classes to talk about, I think, on this podcast. And all of that, when the moment counts, in clutch, are they translating, right? That's what's really important. And I'll end with this. Never forget this. I don't think I ever will, because it's actually recently. Sean Rigsby asks me a question in the back warm-up area at the Youth Pan Am sub-17, sub-15s a few months ago, August into September. We're in between the session, I think it was, Sean. Maybe I forgot the moment. There's some downtime. And we are shooting the breeze the way the three of us are doing right now on a podcast. And Sean says, Camargo, did you have strong squat numbers? Or did you have big training numbers or something to the effect? He was specifically asking me squat, pulling, and pressing. And I said, no, I actually sucked. And he starts to laugh. And I said, I had good technical numbers, though. And he said, oh, I know. And we laughed about that. And, his point was to find out and get information generally. There are some athletes who, yes, if you have a monster squat, it is likely, not a guarantee, you'll have a big clean and jerk. And so it's important to get our squat numbers up. But I remember telling Sean, I said, come to think of it, back in my peak training, I had a couple of athletes 2 weight classes lower than me, out squatting me. But I had a far superior clean and jerk on stage, right? So I guess it does depend on the athleticism of the athlete and whatnot. But Sean, I'm not so sure if you remember that conversation or not, but it stuck to me because I come home and I have these young high school lifters in my gym, and they swear by things they find by Coach YouTube that I'm constantly arguing over. And this topic is one of them. So I'm not sure if you remember that.
Yeah, no,
Coach
you were
YouTube,
talking about
it.
Everything should be anchored toward, at least if you're a serious coach and if you're serious about creating not just Olympic weightlifters, but any sport, what's the performance on the field? Because that's what we're defined by, and not by, in an age where we have many, many more media platforms where it is fun and you can get a lot of followers and a lot of publicity and even make some money posting, for lack of a better term, Instagram lifts. That's nice and all, but at the end of the day, we're trying to improve performance out there. And you've got to figure out, how do I do that? And Danny Camargo was a great performer on the platform, and that's where it should be. I think I was trying to get at, hey, were you better in the gym or better at this? And then talking about efficiency. And you were a very efficient technical lifter, and then rose to the performance, stayed anchored and focused on the direction of what mattered. And that was, what's your total on a platform, not what your total in the gym is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and it's the movement. I think the biggest thing, like you guys said, is it's the application of the movement to the sport.
Yeah,
and that's going to be the biggest thing. Is the movement actually getting you what you need to make the sporting movement actually better?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, are you trying to make your snatch better and your clean and jerk better in the biathlon that is the event? Because it's a totally different conversation. I had this conversation with one of my athletes the other day. Is do you care about competition? He's getting all stressed about the clean and jerk and being exhausted when he goes into training and he can't get it through his jerks because he's so tired and shit. And I just simply asked him, I was like, you don't compete. You work hard, you train. I know you care about the lifts and doing it right, but you're not going to compete ever.
Yeah.
Do you give a shit about competition? Because right now, I'm programming for a biathlon event. So yeah, you're going to be tired practicing for clean jerks after snatches. But homie, if you just care about making this snatch number one day and this clean and jerk number, Like, I can split your training up, and I can do this with your movements. I can do this with your movements. It's a totally different paradox when it comes to training. Like, I can give you jerk behind the neck all day if you don't ever give a shit if you have to do clean and jerk.
That's right.
You just want to have a strong jerk one day. So yeah. And the last thing on that topic really is just like, for a lot of coaches out there, what I think they'll do is and this is kind of piggybacking off what you said, Sean and Danny, about like coaching for yourself. One of the things that I still do is like, and you guys know this about me, like I still work with a coach, and I've hopped between different coaches since I've started being an athlete. And like right now I'm under Vance, and like I learned things from Vance. But one of the things that happens by proxy is, whether it's Vance or Carlos or was Ivan, is these guys, they're not giving me shit I like. They're actually giving me shit I need and I'm not good at.
That's right.
So then as I'm doing it, I'm like, fuck, I suck at this. I should probably give this to also blank, because they could benefit from it too.
That's right.
So it's not just like, oh, it's me and what I'm good at, and I'm going to program it. It's like I'm learning at the same time as a coach, and continued learning, to then sit there and be like, man, this sucks and I'm not good at it, and I think this will be really good for this person. And it's just like a continued learning thing.
Yeah. And something else too that I'm hearing what you're saying, because I get this question a lot from coaches who are developing, is, Danny, I keep hearing you say it's good to know drills, but you got to learn when to apply them, right? The application, that's what we're discussing right now. And I say yes. And they'll go, well, how am I going to know? And I'm thinking, watch.
Yeah, watch and do.
Observe. Just
yeah, I believe it's the USAW one where they say it like, see, show, do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's I don't know where the impatience of developing either athlete or coach came from, because we've been in the game so long, and you're showing the iPhone. Yeah,
you know the answer.
Yeah, and listen, it's one of the things that hurt me, and there's nothing I can do about it. But back in my day, because we three can talk about how long we've been in the game, it was understood when you start weightlifting, athlete or coach. Now I'm talking about the coach. Even the coaches understood it's going to take me a while to get good. So that's kind of gone a little bit. I'm not saying people are necessarily coming in and thinking that they're the best overnight, but they're certainly expecting to be. And so my biggest advice for coaches is just give it a shot. Write a drill. Don't be afraid to be creative. Apply something, and you will know, coach, by observing whether it's going to work or not. There's no particular red flags or not. It's your subjective opinion. You are the professional. You're the coach. Don't doubt what you're looking at. Don't doubt yourself in it. Give it a shot. The beautiful thing is that hopefully it works. And when it works, the very thing that works will eventually stop working.
Yeah.
And then you got to change it up all over again. Man, now that I say that, this is aggravating.
So moving on with the whole new and old coach and taking time and stuff like that. Topic 2 we were going to chat on is basically like 3 tips, if you guys had time to come up with them. Danny, you were just yelling at your computer the whole time.
Yes.
Is 3 tips to new gym owners, both new and old. So whether you're a gym owner, and I bring old into it because like I saw a lot, and all of us did, to be blunt. We saw a lot of older gym owners that were good coaches or good gym facility owners, not even like they maybe had elite level athletes. They just ran a good gym for 20 years. And then like the CVID, I don't say it so I don't get taken down on YouTube, but like that rolled around and like their gym shut down because they couldn't adapt to like online training, right? They weren't adaptable. So like 3 tips to new and old gym owners that are like, because all of us do that awesome business that's out there,
the lucrative
time.
Oh yeah,
that amazing time consuming, full of just good feels job we do.
Easy work.
But like, I'm gonna say my 3, and then like I don't like if I steal one of yours, like obviously just piggyback off it and stuff. But like my biggest one that I tell people is like, like, obviously the first piece of advice I give anyone is like, don't fucking do it. That's the first piece of advice. But that's just an overlaying.
We can stop right there. I think that's fine.
Yeah,
that really is. I got yelled at. I got asked to come into Eastern Michigan School of Business and do like for the entrepreneur school and like talk. And my first piece of advice was like, most of you think you want to do this and you don't, so I recommend you don't. After, the professor was like, thank you, but maybe not that first part. I was like, I'm just being real, dude. Anyways, so my first one is like, don't waste your funds. You may think that you want a lot of things that you don't need. An example, if you're like a CrossFit gym owner, is like the 12 rowers. You don't need 12 rowers. As a gym owner, my two things, I'm a tech geek. So I spent a lot of money getting a nice website. And then I also got like these nice platforms that were metal and they had like a star in each one welded, cut out, and like they were red, blue, and white. I spent way too much money on shit that wasn't actually important. Mm-hmm. People were just happy to lift in a space that was open. Yep. And I blew a couple grand on those. And I could have used that money to make me less stressed elsewhere and or travel easier, et cetera, et cetera. The second one, ask for help from your membership and pay it out on the quality you provide for them and or just make yourself available to them. You'd be surprised how many members like they are eager to help you, but maybe they need like a fucking fridge moved up the stairs to their house or some dumb shit like that. Just be available to help them. They appreciate it. There's not many things that big dumb weightlifting coaches are good at. So use your strength to help. And then like, everything, this is one that is like counter army. So people that are like rah army still when they get out are going to hate me. But like people are always shocked to hear that I'm from the army because I'm kind of chaotic and I'm messy here and there. And my wife is always just like, where the fuck is like you that had to fold your bed and put shit clean? And I'm just like, yeah, he died. He died in a fucking hole because I hated it.
Left him back.
But like everything just needs a home. It doesn't need to be like wildly particular and ornate. So like 4-star, for example, we have all the caddies. I tell the athletes, like, I don't give a shit where the bumpers go. Just get them in a fucking home. Just get them in a home so they're not left out. Because when I ran the CrossFit gyms for years, it was always this battle because they wanted to do like 55s, 45s, 35s, 25s here. Then over here, the same thing, but only some over here, this color. Shit never got put away to the point to where like people were so annoyed with it, they just left shit out. Versus now, it's just like, everything gets put away because I'm like, I don't give a fuck if you put a whole caddy of 10s. It has a home. It's not left on the gym floor. Yeah. I feel like Sean is smoking behind his head. Like Sean's more of a clean person than I am, I think. So he may disagree with that one. But you will be less stressed if everything has a home, maybe not a particular spot. That's like my last one for just like space management. But Sean, you go first on your 3 you'd advise.
Yeah, I thought a lot about. I mean, my advice is similarly always, hey, just don't do this anytime, because I've had a lot of newer coaches say like, hey, I want to do what you do, or have my own gym, blah blah blah. And so I always start the conversations like, no, you don't do this. And so if they don't quit there, yeah, if they don't quit there, we keep going. And the one, I actually wrote this down. I think a lot about this, and like, I think a lot about specifically about weightlifting gyms, because there are only a few of us like still going that are solvent, that can continue to keep doing it. They can make a career out of it, and support your families like we are doing. So the first one that I do is, hey, don't do this. If you think that opening a gym is going to allow you to be the coach that you want to be the best coach, or is going to facilitate your athletic career. Because what we saw from CrossFit is we saw a lot of high-level athletes open a gym because they had popularity or funding or whatever it is. And it's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to open a gym. I'm just going to train. That's how I train 22 times a week and blah, 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 blah. Do not do that. If you think that you want to be a high-level athlete, absolutely do not open a gym. That is one of the worst possible things that you can do.
Amen.
Similarly, though, if you want to be a great coach, not an okay one, a great one, which to me means a very invested professional who's, putting their athletes first and doing all the things necessary for their success, then don't open a gym also. Okay. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that it's going to take you longer, and it's going to be way harder, and it's going to come at a cost. So you'll need to have a series of special situations of, very understanding or supportive spouse, and a lot of coaches actually are single; they're doing it themselves, or family, or some sort of arrangement that's going to give you that sort of social support to get through that, because you won't be the best coach if you're also trying to be a actual gym manager, gym business owner, which is different. It's a completely different set of skills than coaching.
Yeah.
So that's my number one. My number two is start small. And for a weightlifting coach, that usually means starting in another gym. I think it's great advice. Even though I see a lot of issues with, barbell clubs and CrossFit gyms, it's almost like this trope that happens all the time, like butting heads and yada, yada. I still think it's the best place to start. So you can make all of those initial mistakes in your coaching journey, to kind of figure out, okay, what are my philosophies? How do I acquire the wisdom that Danny was talking about? Okay, and get all that, but also get the experience watching how that business works. What is good and what's bad and what does or doesn't work.
With other people's money.
You have no idea what you're doing.
People's money.
Go look. If you think that, it's just like, oh, I'm just going to go in and people are going to lift weights and we're going to have a great time, we're going to PR. It's like, no, it's paying the rent and the insurance and doing your taxes and setting up a utility account and on and on and on. All these infinitesimal things that you can ask and get experience from a current gym owner, and take a look at like how they do things. And maybe you don't like how it is. I worked in a lot of gyms. I didn't like how they're doing stuff. And it's probably why I'm so particular now, and why everything is labeled and has a specific home of where it goes back, where it belongs. So that would be my other advice, is start there. And it also allows you to build your clientele, because if you're going to open a gym in that market, you're more likely to get experience with some athletes, and then you can open and actually have, hopefully you are running a weightlifting club and you're not stealing, people's fitness clients or whatever it is. They're already connected to you and they're going to go to your weightlifting specific gym. But yeah, start small, gives you a client base, allows you to learn about what you do and don't like, and become and refine your coaching practice. And the last thing is, while you're doing that, design your processes for how the gym would operate. And so that means your opening and closing duties. Like when you come into the gym, do you just start coaching? You just throw a polo on, you're like, all right, it's coach time? Or do you go check the bathrooms? Do you go make sure the door's unlocked? It's like, no, you got to have actual processes for how things are going to run. If you're going to hire other coaches, what does your payroll process look like? What does your onboarding process look like? Because you don't just hire a coach and they know what to do day one. You need to write down every step of your shift and what it should look like, so that you could train somebody on that, because eventually you're going to be Danny Camargo. You're going to be running around the world, and you're not going to be able to just coach everybody. Okay. You're going to have to be prepared to teach other people to do that, because we all run out of time and hours and energy. And as much as I would like to coach literally everyone that wants to learn weightlifting from me, I cannot. And so I have to have other people come in, and I have to give them the tools necessary to do that. So that's my third one, is like, whatever the processes of how you believe your weightlifting club or gym should operate, write those down in advance. You can always change them and tweak them. Your things aren't going to go perfectly. They're not going to go exactly as you planned, and you're going to have to adapt. But have something set in stone. Do not make them up on the fly, because you're going to dig yourself into a grave trying to do that while actually doing the job of coaching and running the gym.
Yeah. No, those all solid, dude.
Yeah.
All solid.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I had 3 points, but now after hearing what Sean just said, I think I got 4 tips.
Shit.
Let's go, coach.
Stole something from him.
We're going to have to charge for this podcast, so all of us can actually make an income.
Like literally, funny enough, when you ask the question of the 3 points, I'm like, yeah, I got three main ones. All I got is 3, right? And they should cover everything, but I just stole one from Sean.
So can we pause? I want to pause real quick. Pause.
Yeah.
So one of the things, Danny, that like Sean brought up was about like spreading how much of you have to go around.
Yeah.
As a coach and as a person. And I blew 2 people's minds because I brought it up, because I was like texting you, and they like, again, we were talking earlier, like people are like, oh my God, so and so, like blah, blah. And I was like, I texted you something a while back, and it was a question, and they're like, you just texted Dan. I was like, yeah, I fucking texted. I've known Danny for like 10 fucking years.
Yeah, long time.
But like, I was like, do you know how many times, and later in the conversation, I was like, do you know how many times I've actually asked Danny a coaching question?
Yeah.
I go, probably maybe once. I like literally all the advice, and Sean, this just piggybacks what you said. And I think I've said this to you, Sean, is like, I've literally only gone to Danny for like advice and talking to Danny about like, Danny, how do you manage like your life and being a coach?
Yeah.
Like it's always been some sort of like, Danny, how do I manage being like present and like life shit.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually asked like maybe an in-depth,
Technical,
long-term, like technical programming question or some shit like that. Not that I'm like not wanting to know, but I've never sat there like, tell me how I get my athletes split jerk up 25 kilos. Like, it's always been like, Danny, tell me how the fuck you raise children and have a family for the last 15 years. I'm 4 years in, man, and I'm fucking drowning.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you've actually put it out there, I'll say it. I do remember that particular question. We may have even gotten a phone call about it, and that had zero to do with programming reps and sets.
Yeah, so like it piggies back on what you said, Sean, about like the seriousness of like you are going to have to really figure out how to manage the time, and I've done more in the last year myself trying to figure that out because like I want to be ever more present, especially in my kids' life, but figuring out how to now, after I've done the grind and the gym is finally moving and there's wheels, to like be more present in like my family and wife. And I'm trying, and it's an ever evolving process. I'm not perfect by any means.
Yeah, it's easier.
But like, I mean, I joke around. The more successful she gets, I see less of her, so it actually makes my job easier.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, you're 4 or 5 now.
Five, 6. No, my 3 are very similar. I was going to say my number 1 is something Sean already said. Start small. Start small. Don't think because you're on a roll and you have all these big ideas, you go big. It's easier to start small and grow out of it and struggle with not enough space than having the space and trying to fill it. And so if you could rent in someone else's space, please do it. Does not.
Absolutely.
I know people look up to some coaches out there to have their own club, their own building, their own everything. And that is a dream, right? For the few that can do that. But my advice is don't do it. Just rent space where you can.
It's a honeypot, man.
Yeah. Figure out a way to share space. It is possible. After all, this is just weightlifting. And then if you're able to get your own spot, then that's great. But my right off the cuff, first advice is start small. The second one is focus more on the service, focus more on your coaching, focus more on what it is you're doing in the gym, and less on the branding, the name, the social media, and the tech, as you put it, Matt. I've watched so many clubs, at least here in Florida, start up, make a whole lot of positive noise, and they're not here anymore. And I think one of the things they were missing is they forgot the reason they opened the gym. It's to coach, right? I mean, if you're a jeweler and you open a jewelry shop, you want to focus on making the best jewelry and fixing antique stuff and whatever they do. I don't know anything about old jewelry. The last thing that they want to do is the payroll, the rent, the landlord, and the business side of it. They forget it. I made that mistake. I did not open a gym to be a boss. I did not open a gym to be a leader. To be honest with you, now that I think about it, I opened a gym for a place to train. And I opened a gym thinking I would be an elite coach and that's all I would do and die. And I was quite happy with that plan. That didn't quite work out that way because, as Sean said, there is more to running a gym than just coaching. There's the business side of it, right? So focus on the service. And if you need to bring in the right people to do the business side, you do that. But if you don't have a good quality coaching, and you don't have a great service, well, you're not going to be in business long anyway. So, and then the third one that I tell people, and you've already said it, Matt, this is why we're all very similar, is be open-minded because trends change really fast, faster than I was prepared. There was no trends that changed all through the 90s and the early 2000s. But there was this rapid growth of the sport. We've all watched it evolve. We're living through the evolution now. And I think the third tip I would have had for someone new or old is stay open-minded and be ready to adapt and change. Though do not get stuck too long in one way.
Yeah,
that's it.
I think with all those tips, a lot of good stuff just got put out. You know, one of the things that is the hard part about our sport is that it is hard to make a living off of it, not only as an athlete but also as a coach, and that's one of the difficulties with our sport. But I think we also at the same time can't use it as a cop out. There's a lot of other sports out there that are just as difficult that are also Olympic sports. I mean, you have archery, you have figure skating. There's a ton of sports out there that there's not these fat paychecks like you see in basketball and track and field and all these other sports, but we live in such like a little microcosm, and we're like so focused that it's so easy for so many coaches and or athletes to bitch and complain. And it's like, it's not fair. It's so blah, blah, blah. It's like, bro, like, what if you really love? I always use archery for an example. Anytime anyone dogs USA weightlifting, I always use archery. Like, they're like, the online system's so stupid. I was like, oh, yeah, man. Well, I mean, just imagine like US archery. They got to do this shit too. They gotta do safe sport for US archery. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, they don't get to decide. It's through the USOC. Like, it's not them. It's like, so, okay, escalate that. They're like an Olympic level archer or something. They're high level. The same gambit, but like way smaller. Definitely no funding to the archery coach. I'm pretty sure there's some, right? But like, we're not exactly riding the laurels of the US archery team. And like, it's hard, man. It's, you love the sport and that's why you do it. And then you work around it. And my wife always brings it up because she listens to a ton of podcasts, she reads a bunch of books, stuff like that. Is like, if you always have like your compass pointed in the right direction of why you originally started doing the thing, like both and all three of us have said, you'll find your way.
Yep.
You'll find your way. You'll figure it out. It's like, for example, internet content. I fucking hate social media. I hate social media content. I fucking hate making it. I don't want to. I continue to try to put my fucking foot into the shoe that doesn't fit. I do it because I own a business and I have to.
That's right.
The problem is I've sat there over the years trying to be like, I got to get popular. I got to fucking have 1 million likes. So that way people come into business. And like, I've actually pulled back. My social media manager like understands I don't like doing that shit, but I'll coach all day. And she's figured out like, okay, well, let's just get video of you fucking coaching. Let's just figure out a clever way to get video of you and Tracy coaching and record it and then just put that shit online. And that's the content. And you can press fucking post, Matt. That's not that hard.
Yeah.
And it's way easier than me sitting there like, the clever tips for you to get better gluteal engagement. Like, Jesus, fuck, hang me. It's so miserable. But like, I'm not good at that shit. But like my wife, she slays on social media. That's like her bag. She loves doing it. She's really good for her company. She probably looks forward to a day where she can just sit there and like plan out on a calendar all her social media shit for her company.
Yep.
And it pays it out, right? She does really well because her social media does well. Yeah. So it's like, I just stick to my compass after doing all this bullshit. And like, I love coaching and I just want to provide quality coaching. And I guess things just continue to like work because that's just what I'm trying to stay focused on is athletes getting better. And you've done that, Sean, and you've done that, Danny. Yeah. And that's really just like mic drop, like do the reason you started.
Yeah.
Because to be blunt, if you started a gym or started coaching to get fucking rich, you're a moron.
You're not here any longer.
You can't, like, you can barely even do that shit in gymnastics. So yeah. If you can't do it in gymnastics, I don't know where you're going to be doing it.
Agreed.
But, all right, I got one more. We got like a few minutes if you guys do it. This is just a quick one. Little deep mentality. All right. We all know it. We've all probably gone through it. I know, like, again, I joked in the beginning about being the athlete that just wanted to lift heavy shit, blah, blah, blah. But we've all gone through the phase where it's like, man, I don't want to train. All right. Whether it was me in the Army sitting there like, I don't want to go do a 16-mile fucking road march in the rain through the fucking woods, but I need to get ready for this school. Or Sean, I don't want to do another set of fucking behind the neck jerks, but I need to. Or Danny, I don't want to do another fucking power snatch in the 110 degree fucking weather, but I want to continue to be on this Olympic team. Like, how do you guys handle your athletes now that are, we're going to use the term athletes, they actually want to and are putting forth the effort to be higher level athletes, not the hobbyists. We respect the hobbyists, but we're talking about the athletes. How are you guys addressing it? Are you guys being hard asses? Are you guys gently coddling them in the right way? Are you feeling and reading the athlete based on the day? Like, you know that they have to train. Like, we have to maintain the stimulus. they're just not feeling it, how we dressing it?
Are we talking about on a particular day, or this is an ongoing problem? Is your question?
We'll just say a day. They just come in, they're just like, hey man, I'm just like not wanting to be here.
Oh, the days are easy, man. They come in and you adjust it like any other thing that has nothing to do with motivation. You didn't sleep well last night, didn't eat as much as you wanted to, your boss is a jerk, you have a relationship problem, you were stuck at school, your professor, adjust the day. And I like to remind them that one day does not indicate a problem, and we do not have to change much at all. That's my approach.
Love it.
Yeah, if they've showed up, that's the easy answer. Like, just adjust whatever the workout is, because showing up is the battle, right? You know, like you've walked into the gym, and now I'm here to help you and give you, you know, we can change around what you need if they're. And then I always say you got to be the coaching chameleon to adapt to them. You know, some people do respond to, we'll say, like a militant style coach. They need to get yelled at. It's what they know. It's all their sports, whatever. Some people need a joke just to pick me up. Just like, oh, coach cares about me, and have a conversation. So you need to know that about what they need to have happen. That'll make them feel a little more relaxed, or just, you know, forget anything that happened before they came into the gym. I like to start my athletes' training cycles, at least the ones that I'm like coaching more individually, with declaring what their why is. What's the purpose of doing this? And we have that written down on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Does he say that? I don't know that's, but that's just what I start with.
You know the reference? Know your why?
I've heard it, but no.
Okay, I'm gonna call both of you out.
Yeah.
Okay, it's one of the greatest books I've read. All right, he's also one of the best orators I think out there. Simon Sinek, he wrote 2 books that are really good. It's called Know Your Why. It's really good for business owners, small business owners especially, but also Start With Why. And that's people getting started into their sport, activity, business. 2 great books. Highly recommend people go read. There's a plug.
You got us both on that one, but I know conceptually that process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but yeah, I start with why. It's like that's where we're starting the conversation. Like, what is the point of this? And I kind of push back on them if I think that the athlete might be a recurring problem type person. It's like, well, okay, well, why? Sure, you want to be a national champion. It's like, well, what does that mean? What does that actually get you? Why do you want to do that? And they have to have some really good reasons. It can't just be like, oh, well, that's what I want to do. It can't be simply, well, that's what I want to do. They have to explain, have some substance behind that. And everybody's answer can be different. That's fine. As long as we're both aware that that's meaningful, because then it's something that can anchor the process. That is our compass, our North Star when those days happen. Because I've encountered and had way more difficulty with what Danny asked, is like the recurring kind of athlete who, you know, isn't doing a lot of times. It's easy to get them in the gym to work, but they're not doing the stuff outside of the gym. You know, the eating, the sleeping, I call it filtering chaos. We don't allow chaos to infiltrate our lives. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you're going around, you have no idea what your day is going to look like, what your work schedule, your school, whatever it is, and you're just going from, you know, bouncing in one direction to the next, your performance is going to reflect that. So you have to filter out as much chaos as you can. Even if it does happen, we have to then be able to handle it and be resilient when chaotic things occur, because that's competition. But as much as you can, you know, get your shit together enough so that you're doing all the things so you do have a good performance in the gym. Those are the people that I tend to have difficulty with. And so the starting with why, trademark Simon Sinek, whatever, is a really, really helpful thing to do. It's a helpful exercise, and it keeps them reminded.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, because long-term success and training doesn't end when the workout's over, right? It's a complete lifestyle. I deal with that with young high school kids, especially in the summertime. How late do these high school kids sleep until? You know, it's a whole day. They have wake up, have a bowl of cereal, come in, and then wonder why they're not performing. So,
bro, I like that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, that's the next time around.
Oh my god! If there's another athlete that comes in with 45 minutes left of the training day and then tells me they can't complete their training, but they woke up 45 minutes ago, I'm gonna lose my fucking.
Right.
Well, anyways, I think this has been a great first episode. Thank you guys for your time. All right, we're hitting 50 minutes. We did it in less than an hour. Gentlemen, for all 3 of us, that is a high-fiveable. That's pretty good for how much we all talk.
I'll take it.
PR. Anyways, thank you guys for your time. Good topics. I look forward to the next time we can chat. If any of you guys are looking to bounce any questions, concepts, thoughts, reach out to these guys. I'm going to let them both plug their social medias out there. Danny, go ahead first.
Instagram, Oly Concepts, website, olyconcepts.com.
There you go. Make sure you send lots of emojis. Danny loves emojis. And then Sean.
Kill you, man. I'm too old for that.
Sean?
At heavymetalbarbellclub.com and heavymetalbarbellclub.com if you want to get in touch with us.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, guys. And until the next episode, thank you.